Just 2 weeks left of Dana White's Contender Series in 2025, and that makes me pretty sad. But we can't be sad just yet because we got 2 weeks left, and we are going to enjoy them. We got 5 fights going down this Tuesday. We got some really, really solid matchups going down that I'm very excited for to see who wins, and not only who wins, if they get a UFC contract and what they could do in the UFC. There is a stinker in there. But, of course, we can't get 5 amazing fights every single Tuesday. I'm going to go through all the fights. I'm going to give you some information about each of the fighters in the matchup. I'll break down how I think it's going to go. I'll leave you with a pick, and we'll touch on the betting odds as well. Before we get into the breakdown, I got to give a shout-out to the Dana White Contender Series Legend of the Week, none other than Jose Medina. Gets 30-27 in his Dana White Contender Series fight in 2023 against Magomed Gadjiazulov. And he gets a UFC contract when he lost. 30-27, and not only did he get a UFC contract, he actually has more UFC fights than the dude that he lost to. Insane stuff. Who knows what Jose Medina, did to get that UFC contract, but he got it. He got it, and he's in the UFC, and I think he's still in the UFC even after going 0-3. Shout out to the Dana White Contender Series Legend of the Week, and shout out to you guys for all the support on last week's video and all the support throughout the entire Dana White Contender Series Season 9 breakdowns. Appreciate y'all. Let's get these likes up to 600. I know I'm dropping it a little bit later than I usually did, same as I did last week, but appreciate all the support. Hit the like button for me. It's completely free. I put a lot of time and effort into researching these fights, making the slides, recording it, uploading it. So I would be much appreciated if you could give me a little feedback. Drop a comment down below if you enjoyed as well. But let's get into the fights. We got a light heavyweight bout to start us off with the first fight of the night. And this is the stinker that I was talking about. We got Luke Fernandez coming in at -800, taking on Rafael Pergentino, coming in at +575. I believe it's Rafael because he's from Brazil. Portuguese, the R's are H's. He's 5-0. He's 6'1". I don't know his age, but I assume can't be that old looking at his face. We'll talk about him a little bit. On the other side, Luke Fernandez, 5-0 as well, 30 years of age, 6'1" as well, and they both have the same reach. So, I mean, by the tape, it looks very, very similar, but we got one guy who's -800, and we got one guy that's +575. Let's talk about the dog here. Rafael, professional since 2023. All of his fights have been at heavyweight. And I wish I could show you a little bit more of a full-size frame of this guy, but I couldn't find a good picture. This is literally the best picture I could find off of his Instagram. He looks tubby. All right, he definitely looks tubby. He looks like he was overweight at heavyweight. I just saw him weigh in today. He doesn't look fat. But it's clear that he's not, a filled-in light heavyweight where he's got a lot of muscle on him. It looks like he could still drop. Or maybe, gain some muscle, lose some fat, and maybe even be a fucking middleweight, dude. Like, this guy just does not look like a good athlete. He's an aggressive striker, though. He wings his punches. I think he's more of like a Muay Thai guy, a Muay Thai striker. But it's very hard to tell because he's kind of just fighting these heavyweights that look even worse than him. And he's just kind of throwing, and they're both just kind of throwing. And he's getting the better of the exchanges, and he's knocking these guys out. But it doesn't look that pretty. Solid knees in the clinch, though. Good elbows. And, when you got these heavyweights up against the cage or up against the ring and they're holding on or they're just covering up, ripping some elbows and some knees, it works out well. As I said before, it doesn't look like a great athlete, but it doesn't really matter because the level of his competition is just so freaking low. And if you've done any type of research on this fight, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The one fight that he had, people will bring it up all week because it's the most insane fight promotion I've ever seen. Insane. It looks like he's in a basement somewhere. The walkouts, they filmed the walkouts, and it's like somebody's basement bar. It's a square. Two sides of the square is cage. Two sides of the square is wall. It doesn't even look like it's padded. The announcer's in a full tuxedo. The referee has swimming trunks on, or just a regular t-shirt. And the ring girl is a midget. The ring girl's a midget, and she's walking around with the card, and they go at it. And, of course, Rafael gets a win because he's undefeated. But, good Lord, that fight promotion was low, low level. So this dude has beaten cans, hasn't fought anybody good, and he doesn't really look to be like some amazing prospect that could be something. On the other hand, we got Luke Fernandez, who is the big favorite. 4-0 to the KO, 1-0 to the decision. He's a professional since 2022, 5-0 in CFFC, so his entire professional MMA career has been in CFFC. He is a 3-time champ with CFFC as well in the light heavyweight division. He's a grinding grappler, pretty solid athlete, decent striker, but he likes to press you up against the cage, get some dirty boxing going, drag you down to the ground. And once he gets on top, he's got good ground and pound. Like, this guy looks like he should roll here. He looks like he should be at a UFC level. He might be a little bit green at this point, being 5-0. Like, he could get into the UFC and he could get taught a lesson. But if he's going to be fighting these guys on the regional scene, like, he's going to do what he's going to do. Like, these guys on the regional scene at light heavyweight, it's obviously not a deep weight class, and he's a level above them. So should he be in the UFC? Absolutely. Will he be an amazing fighter right away? Probably not, but I do think he can get wins. Solid skill set overall. I mean, this guy is definitely the better fighter in the matchup, and I'm going to take him for the pick. He's minus 800. Would I bet him at minus 800? Probably not. I would look for a finish prop, an under, something like that, but he should absolutely roll here. Rafael's ground game wasn't really, tested on the tape that I could find, but I can't assume it's good. And I assume Luke Fernandez probably has him covered in every aspect here. My only worry would be, if Rafael just catches him with like an overhand and he hits him on the right spot and knocks him out. But, at that point, it's just a puncher's chance. Luke Fernandez should absolutely roll here. He gets it done. He's going to be my pick. Moving on, we got some welterweights here. We got Donavon Hedrick coming in as a very slight favorite over Luis Felipe Diaz. 15-5, 20 professional MMA fights compared to the 6-0 for Hedrick. Very similar as far as stature goes, very similar in age, but Felipe Diaz has much more professional MMA experience. Let's talk about Hedrick. Professional since 2021. He's a guy that trains in Florida, lives in Florida. I've seen him training at Fusion XL via his Instagram, not me actually going there. ATT Longwood as well, which is in like Central Florida. He's got all-around one finishes. Looks like a good athlete. Caught some of his amateur tape as well. Looks like a good athlete back then. He looks kind of soft-bodied, which is weird because he looks like a good athlete. So maybe he was, a bigger guy that, cuts some weight and he's just been a great athlete his whole life. But he definitely looks like he has some excess skin. Kind of got that like Brian Battle syndrome where he was fat, but he dropped down in weight and now he's got a little excess skin. But he's a strong guy who's a good athlete. Light-footed on the feet, like the guy looks like he's kind of floating out there. It looks beautiful, honestly. Like watching this guy in his stance, it looks like a perfect stance, which is crazy to say, but it looks perfect. He will mix in some takedowns, and it honestly looks like he kind of wants to mix in takedowns or at least go for the takedowns right away. And a lot of these guys on the regional scene are trying to get in close with him because I think they feel outmatched as far as athleticism, or maybe they just don't want to get hurt. They're looking to clinch, and then he will just kind of put them on their back and get on top of you and ground and pound you out. On his Tapology, it says he has a rear naked choke. That's his submission win. It was not a rear naked choke. It was a ninja choke. It was a literal ninja choke. You could call it a guillotine, but it was a ninja choke. It wasn't an RNC because the guy was trying to take him down, but he got him standing with it. There was also a knockout win on his record where the guy knocked himself out. Literally knocked himself out. He was like going for a takedown, but it wasn't like the Petrosky. It wasn't like the Petrosky-Malkoun knockout where he shot a takedown and hit his head on the hip. The guy like kind of got the takedown, but when he landed, his head maybe like twisted the wrong way or like slammed into his hip bone the wrong way. But when they landed, he knocked himself out. And then Hedrick got on his back and started wailing punches. But the guy was already knocked out, or at least very dazed. So very weird KO. That just tells you the level of competition we're dealing with that Hedrick is fighting. It's very low level, but he's got all-round one finishes. He's done exactly what he needed to do against that low-level competition, which is steamroll them. So can you knock him? Kind of, because I would like to see him test himself a little bit more. But he's getting wins in the way that he should be getting wins if he's fighting that low level of competition. Let's talk about Luis Felipe Diaz. We got a lot of notes here. Professional since 2017. Obviously, you know, as you can tell, he's been finished twice by KO, once by submission, and he's lost a couple decisions. He's 3-0 in Chuto, Brazil. He's 0-2 in Brave. He's fought on Jungle Fight. He's fought in a lot of different promotions, but this dude has not fought since July of 2023. So he's been out the game for 2 years. So the tape that you can find on him, or the tape that you're going to watch on him, is like 3 or 4 years old. You know, his last 2 Brave fights, I believe, were in 2022. I don't know where this guy's been, but based on his Instagram and based on, you know, where he's been posting that he's been coaching, I think. I think he's been coaching because he's cornering Jessica Andrade, Denise Gomes, and Carol Rosa in the UFC many, many times. Those girls have been fighting nonstop, and he's been cornering them in almost every single fight. He is a BJJ black belt, so maybe he's their grappling coach. I could see that. But on the feet, this guy's plotty and stiff. I don't think this guy's striking is very good. He's pretty slow, and he doesn't really throw a lot of volume out there either. And his initial takedown defense looks pretty good, but if he does get taken down, he kind of loses a ton of minutes on the ground. He'll be held down. He'll be trying to go for some submissions. He's trying to stall you from landing ground and pound on top. His wrestling, offensive wrestling, isn't great either. He can lose minutes on the bottom. His cardio looked pretty bad too, man. His cardio looked pretty bad. Like, these are a lot of negatives on the side of Felipe Diaz, but he's also fighting a lot better competition. Like, the guys that he lost to in Brave, they're not bad fighters. They're not bad fighters. And, you know, I feel like if Hedrick fought them, he'd probably lose too. So these are negatives that I have written down, but it's obviously just stuff that I've seen on film. So he's been off for 2 years, but if you look at his Instagram, the dude looks like he's in incredible shape. It looks like he's found the supplements that you're not supposed to be having in professional sports. So that's interesting because the guy never really, he looked like he was in good shape when he was fighting in Brave, but now he looks like he's in even bigger and better shape, if you know what I mean. How does this fight go, man? I really don't know. I really don't know how this fight's going to go because I don't know what Felipe Diaz's game plan is going to be here. Like, I know Hedrick's probably going to be looking for a takedown, but is his jiu-jitsu as good as Felipe Diaz? I mean, I don't really think so. I think Diaz has a massive, I don't want to say massive, but I think he has an advantage in the jiu-jitsu department on the ground, but it just depends, you know, if Hedrick is that green in MMA that he's not going to be ready for these type of positions that Felipe Diaz has in his jiu-jitsu bag. I'm going to take Hedrick, but it's really just an upside pick. It's just an upside pick. Like, I think Hedrick is a good athlete. I think he could be decent. At 30 years of age for Felipe Diaz, like, I think he's just a guy that's been around the UFC for the past couple of years, cornering, you know, these girls that I talked about. And they're like, okay, you know, we need a welterweight. We'll bring him in. We'll give him a chance. If he gets a win, like, okay, we'll give him a 3-fight contract. But I don't really think they're looking at Felipe Diaz and being like, we need this guy. I don't know that they're looking at Donavon Hedrick and saying we need this guy either, but they're looking at him and saying, okay, he could be something, you know? So I'm going to take Hedrick for the pick, but it's not a confident one, man. It's not a confident one whatsoever. I could see it going so many different ways. Like, I think this is just a super volatile fight. But give me Hedrick for the pick. You know, if there's a gun to my head and I got to make one, I'll take him. Moving on to the flyweights, we got Imanol Rodriguez taking on Roque Conceicao, or Roque Jr., coming in at plus 210. Conceicao, the more experienced professional MMA fighter with a 10-2 record, the 5-0 Imanol Rodriguez. Out of Mexico, looks like a very, very good prospect, and that's who we're going to start with. Let's talk about him. He's professional since 2022. He's 2-0 in Fury FC. He was on The Ultimate Fighter this past season. Got a KO win in the first round of the tournament. And then he lost on the semifinals to Joseph Morales in a split decision, which was a very close fight, which arguably he could have won. And honestly, I was just kind of shocked to see him be on The Ultimate Fighter. For a guy that's 5-0, I mean, why go on The Ultimate Fighter when you could probably just wait and be on the Dana White Contender Series. Maybe it worked out well for him because I'm sure he got some good coaching with DC. Looks like, he's keeping that relationship around, so that's good. Very young guy as well, 25 years of age. He's 2-0 in boxing as well. Definitely has a boxing background. Super fast on the feet. Love his boxing combinations. I mean, for a guy that started training with boxing, I love to see some really clean boxing in MMA, and Imanol Rodriguez has some really clean boxing. You can always tell if a guy has good boxing if they'll mix in some body shots with their fists. And I'm not just talking like a jab to the body. I'm talking 1-2 up the middle, bang, left hook to the body. That's what this guy has. Clean 1-2 and a left hook to the body. He'll throw it to the head as well. He's just very crisp with his hands and very fluid. Love to see it. Solid grappling defense. The guy's a good athlete, so I think it kind of helps him bail himself out with a lot of his grappling defense. But he can also offensively grapple, and it's pretty explosive, man. Like, he's a good athlete. At 25 years of age, I think there's a lot of upside for Imanol Rodriguez. On the other side with Roque Jr., Roque Conceicao, professional since 2019, more professional MMA experience, but, he's got 2 losses. Those losses are respectable, very respectable, honestly. You look at those 2 fights that he had. Dennis Araujo, I think he arguably could have won that fight, but Araujo's not a bad fighter by any means. And Hugo Paiva, he lost that fight, but it was very early on in his career, and Hugo Paiva's not a bad fighter either. He's a long, clean striker. I think he's kind of dependent on throwing like 1 or 2 big shots at a time, but he stalks forward, and he's very intimidating because he's got a long reach as well, and he's an explosive athlete. So he's going to stalk forward, and he's going to wait for the right opportunity when your back is up against the cage to let his hands go. And he's with those long arms, he can extend really long combinations, and he can hit you hard. He will mix in some takedowns, but I don't really think that's his normal go-to plan. He wants to go out there and strike with you, but if things aren't going well, or if he just feels like he can get a takedown, he's going to go for it. Doesn't throw a lot of feeler strikes, so I mean, he's not pumping a clean jab out there. He's not really throwing leg kick feelers. He's not really trying to gauge your range, is kind of what I'm trying to say. He's not trying to gauge your range. He's trying to force you against the cage so that he can let his hands go. Or if you're not going to move, then he's just going to let his hands go. Like, he wants to hurt you at all times. His punches are really sharp, though. Really clean technique. Solid grappler. I wouldn't say that he's going to go in there and, like, submit guys on the ground, but his grappling is solid. Like, he's good defensively, solid offensively, but he's not super dangerous. He's just solid in the grappling realm. Questionable cardio because in that Paiva loss, he definitely gassed out, and that's probably why he lost. He gassed out towards the end of round 2 into round 3, and he just didn't have a ton of pop left, and he lost the fight that way. It looks like he's cleared up some of those cardio concerns, but he's also getting a lot of finishes before the second round. So maybe those cardio concerns could come to light here if the fight does extend towards the second and the third round. But same thing with Imanol Rodriguez. We haven't really seen him into a third round in professional MMA. So, I mean, it could be on both sides. How does this fight go? I was kind of surprised to see that Imanol Rodriguez was this big of a favorite because I thought they would maybe err towards the more professional MMA experience with Roque Conceicao, because when I watch both guys, I think both guys are good. I think both guys are UFC level. I think both guys would be a good addition to the flyweight division. But in this fight, I do have to pick Imanol Rodriguez because I think he's just that talented, man. I think he's just that talented, and I think he's probably going to be the more busy striker. I trust his grappling. I don't think Conceicao is going to take advantage of him on the ground. So I think Imanol Rodriguez gets the W here, but I think it could be a close fight. And if Rodriguez gets tagged by a shot from Conceicao, like, Conceicao can hurt you, man. He can hurt you. And if Imanol Rodriguez is not ready or hasn't faced that type of adversity yet, which I don't think he has in a professional MMA setting, it could go downhill. But I'm going to take Imanol Rodriguez for the pick here. Minus 250, I think, is a bit rich, though. I'm not going to play minus 250 on Imanol. But I do think he's pretty dang good. And I think whoever wins this one is going to be decent in the UFC. And honestly, I think both of them should be signed. I think they're both UFC level. All right, moving on to the bantamweights here. We got Adrian Luna coming in at plus 110, taking on Mark Vologdin, coming in at minus 130. The Russian, 12-3-1 in his professional MMA career and 16-1 for the Ecuadorian. 30 years of age for the Ecuadorian, so definitely the more experienced professional MMA fighter and the more experienced man at 30 years of age. And a big height advantage. We got to highlight this before we get into each fighter, but 5 inches in height and 6 inches in reach for Adrian Luna, and he sits as the underdog. Never been finished in his professional career, which stems all the way back to 2014. He now trains at the UFC PI in Mexico. You can see him on his Instagram taking pictures with Brandon Moreno, training with Dominic Cruz. Seems like he's getting some good training in at the Mexico PI. He's a gangly grappler. This dude's long, and he uses those limbs very well to kind of stick to you, to wrap you up into stuff. He's got great back takes on the ground. You don't want this guy on your back because he's so long. He can flatten you out. He can land ground and pound, and he can wiggle his little gangly legs into body triangles very quick. And if he takes your back, you got to be defending at all times. Wrestling is not really amazing, but he is kind of crafty with it. You know, he's not a guy he's obviously doesn't have like an American background, American wrestling background. He's not one of these Dagestanis. Like, it just looks like he's got crafty at getting takedowns in MMA because it doesn't look clean. He's not going out there shooting clean single legs. He's kind of like diving on legs and forcing shit to happen, and he just kind of wins scrambles. So, I mean, his wrestling doesn't look good, but he finds ways to get fights to the ground. He's aggressive with his striking when he goes. He's kind of like an upright striker that floats around at range, kind of waits for his right opportunity. He doesn't throw a lot of like feelers out there. He'll pump a jab every so often, a couple kicks, but he's kind of waiting for you to make a move, and then he'll dive on your legs, or he's going to force you up against the cage with some forward pressure, and then he's going to throw a combination dive on your legs. So, I mean, this guy is aggressive, but he's not afraid to really throw down. Like, I watched a couple of his fights, and these guys are walking him down with big punches, and he'll sit down and throw with you a little bit, and he kind of trusts in his chin. Since he's never been knocked out, the guy looks pretty tough. Not a bad fighter. But honestly, I'm not sure how good he is. I'm not sure how good he is because his level of competition doesn't look amazing. But he has, I wouldn't say it's like really good wins, but they're like some of them are decent, but some of them are really bad. So, I mean, in 17 professional MMA fights, not all of them can be amazing. But there are a couple that I'm like, okay, this guy's not complete garbage. Like he's fought some okay guys. Let's talk about Mark Vologdin. Professional since 2018, trains out of All Stars Gym in Sweden. So he is Russian, but he lives in Eastern Europe or Western Europe and trains and lives in Sweden. So he's not one of these guys that is from Dagestan or anything like that. All Stars Fight Night champion. So, I mean, don't really love that. When you train at an All Stars Gym and then they also have a fight promotion and you're the champion, it's like, okay, well, maybe you're just getting the best matchups you can get. He's a clean striker, though, man. He's a clean striker for how short he is. It's impressive, honestly, how good he does because he's 5'3". He's 5'3" at bantamweight, and he's still able to outstrike a lot of these guys. Really solid in and out movement. Just a very tactical striker on the feet. Powerful combinations, and he's pretty accurate with it. He's always punching upwards, but those hooks those overhands really that kind of turn into hooks, they work pretty well. Lots of spinning kicks. I got to point that out because for a guy that, the guys that he's fighting in Adrian Luna, that has good back takes, those spinning kicks can get a little bit risky, but Vologdin's a decent grappler. Like, he's got some submission wins on his record. He does have a submission loss where he got finished by a rear naked choke with a back take, but that was a good amount of time ago, and I think, he's always working on his wrestling and his grappling, and All Stars Gym in Sweden is a solid camp for wrestling. It really is. He can be taken down, especially up against the cage, really just because he's so short that if you can lift up his legs, basically, if you can get your hands clasped underneath his butt and you just stand up, he doesn't have anything to post on because he's so short. So he could be taken down fairly easily, and he kind of, fucks himself a lot because he's kind of trying to sprawl, kind of falls down onto his knees, and these guys are taking his back. So Vologdin's an interesting character too, because I don't even know if he's all that either. So I mean, this is just such a weird matchup to me that I don't know how good either guy really is. But based on what I know about these guys, I think Vologdin's the better striker, but I don't think Luna's going to come out here and get like outclassed on the feet. I don't know that he's going to get knocked out because I don't really think Mark has like some crazy knockout ability. Definitely packs a punch, but I don't think Luna's really going to be there for him to hit him. And in a grappler versus striker matchup where the striker has a 5-inch reach disadvantage or 6-inch reach disadvantage and a 5-inch height disadvantage, I don't really like that, man. If it was striker versus grappler and the grappler is 5'3", 65-inch reach, like, then yeah, the striker could probably stay at range and just sprawl and brawl and like do well that way. But Mark's gonna have to close distance, and when he closes distance, Luna's gonna be there looking to clinch with him, looking for takedowns, and I don't really like that. So I'm gonna go with Adrian Luna for the pick here. Kind of crazy to think I'm picking an Ecuadorian over a Russian, but it's not really a Russian, man. It's not really a Russian. He lives in Sweden. So give me Adrian Luna here for the pick. If the line continues to climb on Vologdin, man, and Luna gets up to like plus 150, I might have to take a stab. Trains at the UFC PI in Mexico. Good training there. Solid grappler. Much bigger, much longer. And I don't think he's a terrible striker. So I'm going to side with the dog here in Adrian Luna. All right, before we go to the feature bout of the night, I want to remind you, if you want all my bets for UFC, for Dana White Contender Series, go down to the link in the description. Sign up to the Home of Fight Picks Winnable. Use code Dana for a 7-day free trial. We're positive 9.54 units on the year on Dana White Contender Series. And we're positive 74.94 units in 2025 between UFC, PFL, and Dana White Contender Series. And we are climbing. We also hit another big payout last Tuesday on Dana White Contender Series. We've hit 3 big payouts in just 8 weeks on Dana White Contender Series so far. Another 14x banger on Underdog. Link down in the description below to get all the picks and all the bets, I should say. With the Home of Fight Picks Winnable. Link down in the description below. Use code Dana for a 7-day free trial. Takes us to the feature bout of the night. This one's going to be amazing. I can't wait for this fight. I can't wait to see how it plays out. But we got Lucas Caldas coming in at plus 325, taking on Magomed Zaynukov, sitting at minus 450. Both guys should be undefeated. Caldas does have a loss on his record, but it was by DQ. So both guys, very, very good strikers. One guy, 30 years of age, just hit the 30-year mark for Zaynukov. And Russia versus Brazil. We see this all the time, Russia versus Brazil, and most of the times we get a wrestler versus a grappler. But this time we got 2 strikers. Let's talk about it. Lucas Caldas coming in at plus 325, professional since 2022, trains out at Nova União in Brazil, very respected camp there. He's got a good amount of kickboxing and Muay Thai fights. You can find some of them on YouTube. His only professional loss was by DQ, where I didn't even know this was illegal, but it kind of makes sense that it's illegal because I don't see it ever utilized in UFC or any other MMA promotion, and they DQ'd him for it. But he had the guy hurt, and you can kick guys to the body on the ground, but I guess you can't stomp on them like with your heel. And he stomped on his rib, and they DQ'd him. So it should have been another KO win for Lucas Caldas, but it's a DQ loss. Pressure striker, dude. This guy wants to be in your face, and he wants to make you feel his presence. And it is very obvious that this guy is just all aggression all the time. But he does feint to make his reads, and then he lets his combos go. I don't know if they're completely calculated. I don't know if they're like completely calculated feints, but he does feint. So, I mean, that's good for a guy that does have forward pressure. If he's, feinting, like making you guess, then that's good. His feints look good, and I think they do work a little bit. Mixes in his knees a lot, and you can tell that, with his Muay Thai background that he's going to mix in a lot of knees, and they are pretty deadly knees. If he's got a guy hurt, he will grab that head and throw it down to his knee, or a little switch knee to the body if they're hurt up against the cage. Mixes in the knees nicely. He's been cracked multiple times, though. So I've seen him hurt. I've seen him hurt on multiple occasions where he's getting a little bit over aggressive and he gets caught with something. He gets some wobbly legs, but he fights through it. This guy's obviously got a lot of heart. He's got some decent recoverability, but he is there to be hit. His takedown defense isn't great for a Muay Thai striker. I don't expect it to be amazing, but he does work to get up very quickly. So I don't know that that's going to play a huge factor here, but I thought it would. When I was making these notes, I'm looking at a guy in Lucas Caldas who's a Muay Thai striker, and then I look at a guy named Magomed Zaynukov, and I'm like, okay, well, this guy's probably just going to grapple fuck him. But that's not the case. He's a professional since 2021. He's a Team Habib training partner, so he's training with Islam Makhachev. He's training with Habib and everybody in that camp. So, still trying to, wrap my head around how this guy's not a grappler, but the reason he's not a grappler is because he's a professional Muay Thai and kickboxing champion. This dude is a legit Muay Thai striker, champion in the IFMA, which is the International Federation of Muay Thai, International Federation Muay Thai Association. Sharp strikers, very sharp, very clean. They're two very different styles. Caldas is like aggressive Muay Thai. Zaynukov is like just very technical, waiting for his opportunity, drawing stuff out, throwing feelers out, throwing those little teep kicks to the knee. Very, very calculated striker is Zaynukov. Great clinch knees. I was trying to say great knees in the clinch, but great clinch knees comes off a little bit weird. Great clinch knees because this dude just fires them. Like, he hit a couple clinch knees that, I don't know how the guy didn't fall to the ground. Like, grabbing this dude's head and just whack in with the knee. It's disgusting. It looked disgusting, but his clinch game is nice. Hard lead leg kicks. I think that could play a big factor in this matchup because Caldas does have such a pressure-heavy style, and he is kind of heavy on that lead leg. I think the leg kicks could be big for Zaynukov. He's not really a wrestler, but he does have some really solid Muay Thai trips that he will just kind of use to, throw you off your rhythm. Or if, he doesn't like what's going on in the clinch, he'll just, boom, trip you, throw you on the ground. He can wrestle. He trains with fucking Habib and Islam. Like, he can wrestle if need be offensively. His takedown defense didn't look very good. Honestly, he's getting taken down fairly easily, but he gets up. He gets up pretty quick. I don't expect him to be, held down on the ground for extended periods of time, especially in this fight. But the bad thing I did see with Zaynukov is he can slow down late into fights, and he can get a bit sloppy. I don't really think this guy has 15 minutes of solid cardio. I think if you can make him work, especially in the round 2 and 3, if you can continue to make him work, you can hurt him, and you can make him get sloppy. You can make him make mistakes. Will the fight get to the third round, though, is the question. Because I believe the over-under is set at 1.5, and the under is minus 160 or something like that. So they don't expect this to go into the second round, really. And I could see that happening. I was a little bit shocked to see Magomed Zaynukov as a minus 450. Because I think Caldas is a fun striker that holds a lot of danger, has clearly shown a lot of heart. But I think he's probably got to weather some big shots early because I think Zaynukov's going to be able to hit this guy. It kind of reminds me of the matchup between Vitor Costa and Damian Pinas last week, where Vitor Costa walks forward into shit, and Pinas has some dangerous heavy hands, and he just caught him with a big punch. Caldas walks forward into stuff. Zaynukov, I don't think has crazy big power, but he can definitely KO you. I'm going to take Zaynukov for the pick here. I wouldn't bet him at minus 450, though. And if anything, I would look towards a sprinkle on Caldas by KO, or maybe just on the money line at plus 325, because he's going to be alive for early KO. He's that dangerous. I don't know if he's going to be able to keep up his pace like he does into round 2 and into round 3, because all of his wins come by KO and within the first round and a half, really. So maybe he does. Maybe he breaks Zaynukov late because I don't think Zaynukov has the best cardio, but I have to pick Zaynukov because I think he's the cleanest striker. I think he's better defensively. And I think he probably wins. But I'm gonna be interested in maybe a little slight Caldas play to pull off the upset. But Zaynukov's gonna be the pick, and that's gonna do it. Appreciate y'all for watching the video. Please like the video for me. Let's get this video to 600 likes. And maybe we'll do a little giveaway. Who knows? But if you guys could do that, it'd be much appreciated. Subscribe if you're not already. Till next time, hey, Job Picks.